Hello everyone, today we are going to look at multi-sampling. That's one feature of the Iridium that I really like, and I think it's a big selling point because it allows you to transfer the character or a good version of an original sound from any instrument that you play. I don't know, a bass or a guitar or a piano or another synthesizer or your modular. And you can then sample it in different pitches. You can define zones inside the Iridium at which pitch then these samples are being played. And so you have not just one sample for the whole range, which would then lead to sample playback artifacts and kind of distort the sound in unpleasant ways. So you have multiple samples of the same synthesizer or source. Then you just tell them at which range on the keyboard the new sample and the correct pitch should be played. So we're gonna do that now with a range of 4 octaves, just for simplicity. You can of course go crazy on the synth as always. You can even set up at which velocity level the sample should be played at. For example, like perhaps from drum sampling synthesis, where you have different attack sounds and so on and so forth. So you can really go super deep here, and of course you're not limited to just one sample per octave. You could make 3 or 11, how many you like. But yeah, it takes some time to set up. But I think it sounds pretty convincing with the synth sound here. That's pretty easy to do. So you go into the audio tab, and by default you cannot hear anything. But I already set it up here in the layer menu, where you can increase the input volume. By default it's 0, and I then use this to check if I get any input here from the back, and yeah, that's true. So I increase the input volume, and then in the global tab I select the record source to be also input. And you can see down here the monitor level matches the volume that we set in the layer input level. So it's the same control, just a different name. So now we have confirmed that it's working. All we have to do is to record. And the way you record is you have to memorize which pitch you're at. So I'm here at C0, C1, C2, and C3. So you could of course transpose and go super low, but I don't think that sounds very pleasant for that sound, so I'm just gonna take the range that I want to work in basically. Okay, so start recording. I'm gonna play it sustained, so I have more material to work with. Because we're gonna add some envelopes, and you have to think a bit ahead. Like if we just would play it plucky, then all we could do is play it as a pluck convincingly, if that's a word. So, or to be a convincing pluck sound. And that's all we could get because we don't have much more material to work with. But here we got a little bit more sustained, so we could add a longer release. So always good to have a bit more sound to work with. So if you like, you could trim this now by just selecting the region, edit, trim, and save it then to a new directory. And I created one here called multis, and I'm just gonna name this example or something, or exam1. Turn, save, and now it can be selected from our oscillators. So I'm going down here in a particle engine, and to the top, actions, add, and by default it already selects the last file that we saved. Very convenient. We're going to add this now 4 times because we're going to need it 4 times for all the 4 octaves that we want to trigger. And there's really no best way to go about it. It requires a lot of configuration, but yeah, there's no set way that works best. So let's start with setting the start and end points of each individual sample. And you have to select a sample up here, makes it a bit easier to navigate and to know where you're currently at, given that all samples have the same name. So we're going to go into edit, and then we have sample start and sample end. Now the first one, of course, is at the beginning, so we don't have to travel that far. I go a bit inside the sound because I want to avoid any empty parts in the sound. I don't want to have to any silence in between or something. Then we're going to close this, go to the next sample, edit, same story, dial in as close as we like. And sorry if this is a bit boring to look, but yeah, we'll get to the good stuff in a second. So sample number 3. I really wish they would have added a shift button or something that I can scroll faster. This is like, I'm already starting to worry about the longevity of these knobs or encoders. Okay, last but not least, our octave number 4, or C3 in this case. Close. All right, so going back to sample number 1, and now if we scroll through, you can see the brackets here correctly showing which part they're going to play. And now we're going to change the pitch. That's the important part. You have to tell the synth engine at what pitch the sound is, so it can then interpolate the remaining semitones. So this was a C0. Come on. There it is. C0. It's pitch number 24. And with that number, we already know at which key we have to start. And that is here. You can select from note and to note. So just bring it up to 24. And we only want this sample now to be played in that one octave, octave 0. So we're going to make sure it ends at B0. So always go from C to B. Then next one, same story, but one octave higher. In this case, it's note number 36. So 24, 36, always 12 between. C, no, B, B1. There we go. Next one, 48. To 59. And the last one starts at note 60. And of course you could, now it's the last sample, you could add a broader range and hope for the best, but yeah, probably will not sound as good, but let's just make this go from C3 to B4. Probably won't play that high anyway. Okay, and with that we're pretty much set. So let's start to hear it. I'm gonna use this keyboard as input for the Iridium. So I'm just gonna change the arm track here. And now I'm gonna trigger this one. Let's hear it. Oh, we can see we still can go one lower. Ah, I forgot to set the pitch on that one. Okay, let's 36 it is. Next one. So yeah, as I said, it takes a bit of time to set up. It's a couple of steps that you have to do, but you can save this all as a preset for later. And now the beauty of it is that we can play chords. With a sound that was originally just a mono-synth. And yeah, we can leave this menu now. I mean, we're already here in the particle, so we can start using all the other good stuff from the synth, like filters. And of course, envelopes. And yeah, you could hear that the sound ended a bit abruptly. Or is that a word? I don't know. I shouldn't try to speak so much English. At least not words that I never used before. Okay, anyway, so the reason is that, as I told you in the beginning, it's a good idea to add a good chunk of sustain if you really want to use this sound for, in many different ways. So if we now would say, okay, this is going to be just a plug sound, then it doesn't matter, right? If we then, I don't know, add reverb, delay combo. So for that it works, but of course if you have something with a long release, you will have problems if the sound was too short. So that's why I said in the beginning you have to think a bit ahead how you want to play with the sound, but to me it already sounds pretty convincing, and I basically made a mono synthesizer into a poly synthesizer. Of course I cannot change a lot of stuff, but I mean we could add a drive or something. Pitch bending works as well, of course. Okay, bonus tip, we could convert it into a wavetable also. So we're now here in the wavetable view. We go into the tools section, and then there's a analyze audio, and then you just take what you just recorded, analyze, and here you can see the 4 different octaves. It's kind of nice representation, because you can see that each octave, the wave, a number of waveforms double. So let's find something in here that is interesting. And of course, as being just a wavetable, we have no more problems with the length of the sound. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's sampling on the Waldorf Iridium. I hope you learned something and have fun experimenting preserving your modular patch for eternity. Okay, no, just one more thing. Here in the global menu, no, not in the global menu, oscillator 1, where we have our particle engine with our precious map here. We can save this as a preset, or we can save this mapping to, I don't know, something like name this Mogi map or something. Yeah, but as a new preset is probably the easiest. So let's name this, I don't know, Moogie return, and there it is. So when we initialize, there's also some other stuff like a piano. So you can see here now that all the samples are replaced. And sounds a lot different, of course. But we can now always go back into our oscillator, or maybe let's take the number 3 that we never used. Go presets. There's Mogi. Close. And there we are again. So yeah, you can make your own instruments like that and use them on any oscillator. And that's kind of like the modular approach. You don't have to save the entire patch. You can just save the settings of a single oscillator and then copy them over, or yeah, stuff like that. All right, that's it from me for today. Thanks for watching and see you guys in the next one. Bye.